Welcome back to episode 76 of Your Birth Bestie podcast. Today we are talking about something really important that comes up almost every single time you are making a decision between home, hospital, or birth center birth, and that is the true cost of birth. So maybe you've been wondering, is home birth really worth the investment? Or maybe you've heard people say that midwifery care is too expensive and insurance won't cover it. Or even that hospital birth is just what you're supposed to do because it's covered. So why pay out of pocket for something different? I want to break down the real cost of birth, and not just financially, but also emotionally and physically, and why investing in personalized midwifery care can be one of the best decisions you make for yourself and for your baby. Hey there, I'm Beth Connors, a certified nurse midwife and mom to 3 girls, but also your birth bestie. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into everything you need to feel confident, prepared, and in control, from baby bump to delivery room, from practical tips to personal stories. We'll cover it all so you know exactly what to expect every step of the way. Let's get into it. So first, let's talk about some of the biggest misconceptions about birth costs. And the first myth that we've all heard before is that home birth is only for hippies and also for risk takers. But in reality, home birth is not just about rejecting modern medicine and declining everything for just the sake of refusing. It's about choosing a more personalized, evidence-based approach with a skilled provider who values your autonomy and ensures that you are the center of your care. This is why I named my practice Family-Focused Midwifery, because individualizing care and allowing families to take control of their experience, for me, is the number one priority. Also, research supports that planned home birth for low-risk pregnancies is a safe option with lower intervention rates. Home birth is not just for a certain stereotype of person. It is much more than that, and we will tie that back into birth costs in a bit too. The second myth is that midwifery care is too expensive and insurance won't cover it. In reality, and depending on where you live and what your insurance situation is, yes, midwifery care can be an out-of-pocket expense, but I did want to break that down further. The average hospital birth in the United States costs between $10,000 and $50,000, depending on your location, interventions, and how long you stay at the hospital. And then even with insurance, many families still pay thousands of dollars in deductibles and unexpected bills. There is a huge range of what you could expect to pay, but when looking up this information, it seems that the average, to give you an idea, is about $3,500 out of pocket for expenses. The average home birth with a midwife in the United States costs around $5,000, which would include prenatal care, birth support, and postpartum care with fewer surprise costs. And this is discussed early on with your provider that you would hire, and everything, all the services and how that would be laid out is given to you. Many midwives offer payment plans as well, or accept HSA, FSA funds, making the investment more manageable for families. So when we compare total costs, home birth might seem like a bit more out of pocket initially. Maybe not. Like I said, insurance and circumstances are definitely variable, but it can actually be more affordable in the long run. Plus, the big thing with home birth is that you're getting individualized care and continuity of care that hospitals do not offer, or really at least that I have seen or heard about compared to the care of an out-of-hospital midwife. So I have seen both sides as a certified nurse midwife in the hospital setting and out of the hospital, and the individualized care and that continuity of care is so much stronger out of the hospital. So that's really what you're paying for as well in the home birth cost. But like I said, I want to dive deeper into cost because it isn't just about money. So let's talk about the emotional and physical costs of birth and how different care models can impact your experience. So for hospital birth, many families who birth in hospitals describe feeling rushed, pressured into certain interventions, or even ignored in their care and not feeling like they are the center of what's going on. I have seen the fear-mongering time and time again, and the quick appointments and the lack of personalized care is a huge reason why I transitioned to being a home birth midwife, even though the beginning of my career was within the hospital system. Hospital births are known to have higher intervention rates, which can lead to unnecessary medical procedures, which would then further increase risks of complications like C-sections or postpartum trauma. Birth trauma is so high, also largely because of the system of maternity care and its focus on efficiency and profitability rather than focusing on connection and individualized care, like it should be, right? On the other side is home birth midwifery care. Families who choose home birth with a midwife often experience less stress, fewer interventions, and greater autonomy. Instead of those typical 10 or 15-minute prenatal visits in the hospital, which really just made me cringe when I was a midwife training in the hospital, that out-of-hospital care includes 1 hour long in-depth visits where we discuss everything from nutrition to birth planning to emotional preparation with your partner and making sure everybody is ready and fully informed and fully prepared and excited for this journey ahead. There is no rush. Everything is absolutely customized to you and what you're looking for and all of your needs. I cannot tell you how many families I have worked with that have trauma from a previous birth in the hospital where they felt unheard and pressured into certain interventions, end up deciding then for their next birth to have a home birth. They have said that afterwards, being able to compare those two different experiences, at home they said they felt in control and safe and supported, sometimes even telling me that they would have never thought birth could be the way that they experienced it at home because they just hadn't seen it for themselves before. And it was this abstract idea that, was a dream of theirs, but they never actually thought that they maybe would be able to do this. So this is the power of investing in personalized care, even though there is an expense that is, related to that level of care, but there are so many benefits of it as well. And, breaking down and figuring out what's all included with your midwife is super important for you to really distinguish the difference of care between, many choices that you might have in front of you and picking out which one is the best for you and your circumstance. So when we talk about the cost of home birth, let's talk about what you are actually paying for. So you are getting time and relationship-based care. I believe that midwifery care isn't transactional. It is 100% personal. And with out-of-hospital midwifery care, you are getting comprehensive, holistic support throughout your entire pregnancy, throughout birth, and your postpartum journey and that transition into welcoming a new baby into your family. It is truly an experience that is customized to your needs and your values, and we don't try to fit you into a certain box and standardize your care like you might see in other models. You're also less likely to need intervention for your pregnancy or your birth. Hospital birth often comes with interventions like encouraging inductions, epidurals, and C-sections, which can, of course, add to your bill and your recovery time and your stress levels. So much of your experience is mental and emotional, and the care you receive in pregnancy and birth absolutely matters. With midwifery care, you reduce the likelihood of unnecessary interventions that decreases then the monetary cost of services that'll add up during birth and after. But it will also add to the mental load of your experience, and that can affect, your outcome and how you're viewing your birth and how you're transitioning into motherhood. So it all is important in your entire journey. So just being mindful of those things and different paths that you might be able to take. And I kind of mentioned before about the postpartum period, but it really is just as important as birth itself and preparing for birth. I can say with confidence, though, that hospital-based care leaves families without adequate follow-up in that period of time. You've seen the care schedule and how many visits are scheduled before your baby is born, but then you only get one visit at 6 weeks postpartum in the hospital. And this is definitely a poor example of supporting women compared to the out of hospital midwifery care services, and how we are providing in home postpartum visits for you and checking on baby and making sure breastfeeding is going well and just checking in on your mental health and your family and how things are going. A lot of times people have a lot of other things also going on in their lives aside from being pregnant and welcoming a new baby, and just making sure that you have all the support and resources around to support you is truly important as well and often overlooked. Having that connection with someone who cared for you prenatally and then all throughout labor and birth, and then they continue that care into postpartum and assist with all those transitions, I think is just really, really special to have somebody that you have a relationship with and that you trust. And that is just such a crucial part of your care. And, you have that continuity of care that we talked about before. And this then brings me to the last piece of this conversation, if you are considering a home birth, but maybe worried about the financial aspect. So I wanted to share a few ideas when considering the cost. So first, break down the cost between hospital and home birth expenses, including your deductibles, facility fees, interventions, additional costs of home birth, maybe extra supplies, things like that. Make sure you understand your insurance coverage and what services would and wouldn't be covered. Ask local midwives about their payment plans available. Many midwives allow you to pay over your entire pregnancy rather than in just one lump sum. Finding a midwife early on would then be helpful so you can plan for these expenses over those 9 months, and this can definitely be helpful in budgeting. And then also comparing different midwifery services, packages, and costs that are local to you to find the best fit for your situation and what you're looking for. So everybody does things a little bit differently, so everybody also has a little bit of a different cost based on the services that they're offered. Also, check your HSA or FSA eligibility. You may be able to use those accounts to cover midwifery care. So asking about those benefits is something to consider, and also asking your midwife on how they can assist you with getting those things covered and using those services that you have. And then lastly, prioritize what matters, most importantly. Birth is one of those most life-changing events that you'll ever experience. So choosing care that aligns with your values and supports your well-being is an investment you're making in yourself and in your baby and your family. I like to sometimes think of this in comparison to investments in wedding photographers when you get married. This is also another huge life experience and milestone with cherished moments, and people are less likely to hesitate about the cost of those tangible photos of their perfect day than they are of maybe planning their birth and having a supportive birth team. The mindset that will, just figure it out and make the most of whatever is the cheapest option sometimes or whatever is covered by insurance. But when you think of your satisfaction and outcome in the short term of birth and meeting your baby, and then even more into the long term with how you feel physically and emotionally and transitioning into this new role or adding a baby to your growing family, it definitely feels like a no-brainer to do it the way that you want, right? But I know there are also other things that go into this decision. It's not just about finances or what you want. It's also about your medical history and, logistics of certain things. So I totally get it's not the choice for everybody, but if it does come down to the investment, there's other things to also consider and ways to kind of change your mindset if it's something that you're really interested in, but you just aren't sure if you can take the leap quite yet. The cost really does go deeper than the monetary value. And if you're considering home birth, it does take some reflection to decide what the best choice is for you. I know for me and my own home birth, it was something I was determined to do because it was the best fit for me. And I did have to financially plan to make it possible. So hopefully these are helpful tips as well for you to decide if this is a path that you want to explore. So of course, if you ask me if investing in midwifery care is worth it, I would say 100%. When you choose home birth, you're not just paying for a service. You're investing in your autonomy, your safety, and a deeply personal birth experience that prioritizes you and your baby. If this episode resonated with you, I would love for you to subscribe to the show and take a few seconds to leave a 5-star review. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and continue to trust your body, trust your birth, and know that you are fully capable of making the best decision for your family. Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday for another episode. Bye, everyone.